this year. And last year in 2022, yay, getting into the third decade, right? Or no, it's already the fourth. Oh my God, if you think about it that way, just imagine. Yes, exactly. And basically, I am now a full-time online fitness coach, but this is quite new. So I worked in marketing, as a 9 to 5 normal, like project manager in marketing until July last year, so 2022. And that was the point where I said, okay, I think I'm going to go all in on my own business. And yeah, it's been a journey, let's just say that, because beforehand I was living a really, really good life, and I feel like privileged. I went to university, and then I started working in marketing, and I was in a long relationship, and we started building up my life. I had a really good job. I had friends, I had a car, I had everything. But at the same time, I just felt that there is something more. And so I felt a bit like, I knew that there's something more out there for me. And I started getting into self-development, and that happened through fitness for me. So that meant that I started going to the gym, and I started realizing that going to the gym, I gained a bit more self-confidence, and I started, be more self-aware and all of that. And through that, I started my side business, which was fitness coaching, which I started on the side, in the evenings and on the weekends. And within 2 years, I realized that, okay, I think, it's time to go all in. So it was last year, the point where I said, this is it. I resigned from my 9 to 5 and I went all in. I don't know if it made sense. But yeah, I hope that it made sense.
No, it did, because for me, I'm working a 9 to 5 job, white collar, more white than the shirt that I'm wearing now, right? But you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to say, hey, there's probably more to this crazy world than me working for someone else and maybe not getting out my dreams or my ideas that I want to do. So take us through the very beginning. You mentioned that you started your fitness journey because you went to the gym and then you realized, hey, I can help people the same way I'm helping myself. But at the same time, you're in an environment where, to a lot of people, Patricia, you have everything that many of us want. You have the relationship, you have the car, you have the house, but you wanted more. So how did that start to develop in your mind that I think there's more to this crazy life than what I'm living right now?
Yeah. So it's been a process, right? So I think when I started working in marketing, after university, at university, I was a party girl. So I was just like drinking and partying and studying, obviously, at the same time. And then when I started real life, I got a job. And then I was still like, okay, I was working. And then in the weekends, partying, and then at some point I was like, there must be more to life than just working and drinking, right? So I started thinking, okay, who am I outside of drinking and working? What if I lose my job? What happens to me? Who am I? Is a basis. I started questioning, I kind of had a quarter life crisis at 25, that's how I call it. And I was like, okay, who am I? What are my hobbies? And then I was like, well, I like reading. Everyone likes reading. What? Is that even a, so that's when I got into fitness. And then more and more, it was like, oh, wow, I can do hard shit, And then this whole self-development Basically I got certified as a fitness coach, as a personal trainer. And then I was like, yeah, I can help other people through fitness discover this about themselves, this self-confidence of like, yes, you have to show up even on days when you don't want to, that, you know, there is no cheating in the gym. Like you can't cheat in life in the gym in the way, because a weight is a weight. And if you can, you know, like you have to like train yourself and go there every day, or like, you know, every week, and train yourself to be able to go up in the like the weights that you're lifting as well. And if you're not doing it, no one else is doing it for you. Same with fat loss, right? Like no one else is going to, you know, tell you not to eat whatever, or, you know, it's like you have to do it for yourself. And so through fitness, I found this like self-confidence, and that I can rely on myself. And like this feeling, obviously, like with the years, it got stronger and stronger. And that's when I was like, okay, I started my business on the side. And in the beginning, I was like, what am I doing? Like, who let me do this? Like, am I really allowed, like without supervision, you know, to do something like this? And so all of these feelings of like questioning myself all the time, they like, I got, you know, more like fitness literally helped me through all of this, because like my self-confidence was building up the whole time during this. And I do have to add that I also prepared for 2 bodybuilding competitions. So I did get on stage, you know, like stage lean, like I did the whole like extreme dieting as well, and like the discipline and all of that. And yeah, and like honestly, yeah, it's just like, sorry, it's a super emotional journey for me. And then it was also like there's a lot of questioning. There was a lot of questioning myself about like, you know, should I go full time with my online business or not? Because as you said, I had this traditionally beautiful life. No, it was beautiful, and everyone was telling me like, you have the perfect life, you have a beautiful flat, you're in a relationship, you know, you have a car, you have a stable job, you have everything. And my job was like fun, like I really enjoyed it, you know, as well, my 9 to 5, I mean. So I like, honestly, like it was not wrong, but I still felt that there is something else out there for me. And so for months and months I was questioning myself, like, why would I leave this? Everyone is telling me that it's perfect, but for me it was like, is this really perfect? And it was like this whole of like, am I being ungrateful for my life? And I was like, I was so grateful. I'm like, I'm so privileged, like, you know, that I have all of this. Like, how am I going to leave this? So there was a lot of like all of these questions in me. But at some point, I think it was also like very closely related, like with my relationship, that when that ended, then I said, okay, if that part is ending, then I'm just going to go like, you know what, fuck it. So sorry, am I allowed to sorry. But I was just like, okay. But I was just like, you know what, like, okay, relationship is ending, then this is the time. This is the time, I felt it, that I'm going to resign from my job. I'm going to sell 80% of my belongings. You know, I sold my car, we sold the furniture. I gave away like 80% of my clothes to like charity. And currently I have 2 big suitcases, and that's my life. And so if you tell me tomorrow that you have to move to Lisbon, Portugal, I'm like, I'm here. You know, I get my 2 suitcases and I go. So basically I made myself location independent, but that was obviously based on the work that I had been doing for the 2.5 years before, or the 2 years where I had been building up my online fitness business on the side and in the evenings. So I think, you know, it wasn't just like from one day to another. It wasn't like, okay, like I wake up today and I'm like, okay, I'm going to quit everything and change everything. It really came like, you know, step by step. And it was like a 2.5, like 3-year process, I would say, in hindsight. When you're in it, you don't even like realize where you're going, it's like life is so amazing, right? Because you are like just like going into a direction, and sometimes you don't even know where you're going to end up, but you feel it if it's like right or wrong, and you just like keep on like going forward, and at some point like it's just like, oh shit, it makes sense, you know, everything like like it just feels right. So this was kind of like my story, how it all happened. Yeah.
And I think one of the best comparisons that I can give is, since you mentioned it, it's like a relationship. When a relationship ends, as you look back and you reflect, you know exactly when that relationship was going in a direction that there was a point of no return. You can go back and say, March 1st. That's when it was going to go downhill. You know what I mean? But when you're in it, you're like, okay, this is all right. I can still navigate it. But when it ends, that's when you realize 12 months ago is when I should have stepped away. For you, you said it was a 2.5 to 3 year process, but I'm pretty sure people on the outside are looking like, Patricia's kind of crazy. She just got up and ended everything. She quit her job, her relationship's over. She doesn't even have a closet. Like, what woman doesn't have a closet? Right? They're trying to figure everything out. But for you, you knew that, hey, this part of my life is over. I need to reestablish and redefine myself. And I can't do that holding on to a past me, because the new me is someone who's totally different. So, Patricia, when you compare the two, how much have you changed when you compare yourself how you were back then, when you were living this quote unquote perfect life that a lot of people are telling you, to now where you're living the perfect life, but it's the perfect life for you?
I mean, you know, it always seems perfect from some perspective, but it's never perfect. It's just life. That's what I would say, because, you know, I lived the traditionally, like, you know, the by society, like the definition of a perfect life by society, you know, I lived that life, and now I'm living the perfect life of like, oh my God, you can go anywhere you want, you have your own business, you can work whenever you want. Yes, but that also has its own like things, you know. But let's say that the difference is like in terms of work, or like job, like profession and career, that I can. Okay, so I'm really doing work that fills me with purpose. So when I see my clients and you know, like work through their issues with their body, with their relationship with their food, and they get stronger, and they get and they want to, like, you know, perform better in the gym, like that's the thing that really fills my heart with purpose. So I am really doing a job that at the end of the day, I feel like I'm making a difference in people's lives. And I think like that's one of the basis of happiness in life, to do something that gives you purpose, and that you know that you're really adding value to the world. That's one. So I think that's like the deepest. Because before, like, I was working in marketing and I was doing very fun projects, you know, and very cool like outcomes. But at the same time, I was just helping big companies make more money, you know, and not like directly impacting women and women's life. So I think like from the career perspective, that's the big difference. And from everything else, you know, like I was dependent on a location because of my job. So obviously then when I said, okay, I'm doing a different job, then I questioned the location that I was in. So I was in Austria and I always wanted to live further down south, you know, Portugal or Spain. I said it. And so I was like, oh, okay, then could we actually think about doing that, you know, getting closer to that or discovering that? And now, like, you know, I've spent the last year like traveling around a little bit, and I also reconnected with my family because I had time to spend back home because I wasn't connected to like another location. because of my job. So I also spent some time at home, which is Budapest, Hungary. And I really reconnected with my family. So that was beautiful as well. And from the relationship perspective, I think you just really need to see what you need in a relationship, and evaluate your life based on that. And I think I will leave it at that, if that's okay.
So for the women who are listening and the women who may be observing this beautiful transformation you've gone through, Patricia, sometimes they may feel additional pressure because family, the connection to family is heavily emphasized on them. But here you are, you kind of made a decision that's saying that, hey, I think I need to do this. Like, how would you want to speak to the women out there who feel that maybe they can't do what you're doing because they're either feeling a certain type of pressure to continue to stay in a situation that's no longer fulfilling to them, or they may feel that I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm supposed to do this and everything else should just remain as a dream?
So one thing I have to clarify, I do not have children, and I wasn't married. I was engaged, and we broke our engagement because we saw that this, like, it makes no sense to get married. But so I do not want to give advice or my opinion on, like, how to deal with, like, when you have children involved. Like, that is, like, I would like to, like, that's not my territory. So but other types of pressure, like, what kind of pressures do you mean? Like, pressures from family, from, like, parents and stuff, or what type of things do you mean?
Well, I would say more so, not necessarily pressure for family. So let me clarify. So I think the majority of the pressure in that situation would probably come from those around you. Like, let's say your friends or maybe family members, like your inner circle, because when there's children involved and you're married, it's a different type of, you view things differently. But when you're, let's say, in a long-term relationship, or as you mentioned, when you're engaged, it's more so the pressure from people around you, like your friends. Is that something that you went through? And if so, how did you deal with it? And maybe that can help those who may be experiencing something similar.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah, your environment. So, I think as women, we do have in general, like, pressure from society telling us, like, get married. Like, that's the life. Like, go through life. Like, that's the logical step. Get married and then get children, and then you're, like, happy. And first of all, like going through that and processing through the fact that, when I was thinking, okay, what if we break up our engagement? Do I fail as a woman, like, in the eyes of society, because I have a failed engagement? And that was a question I did think about it, but then I was just like, who is society? Why would society tell me, like, what to do? Like, this is my this is my life. Like, I'm not gonna get pressured. Who is society? Who? Like, please tell me who. Like, I'm like, no, this is my life.
Well, if you're asking me, I don't know. Do you guys know? Because we don't know, right? No, but you're right. You're right. But who is society? So go ahead.
I'm like, yeah, exactly. And then if you start from there, if you have friends or people in your environment who are questioning, like, oh, do you want to get out of this relationship? First of all, I would question, like, are they on your side, or, like, what's their narrative? Like, whose opinion are they saying? And also, they do not know what's actually going on. Like, you are the only person who knows what's going on. Or even if other people know what's going on, you are the one, like, you feel your unique feelings. So other people cannot tell you how to feel. Like, what you feel is always valid. Like, it's always what you feel. Like, it's like, and so at some point I was just like, no one can tell me what to do in my relationship. And I was lucky, because also, like, not just my relationship, but my, my career change. I think it's the same. Like, oh, you have a great job, like, don't resign. Like, no, like, then you won't have a stable income. And that's like the traditional like view, right? And even there, like you have to feel it inside, and it's very scary because there are no promises. So when I made all of these decisions, I did not know whether I will be fine. I did not know. I had no freaking clue. I knew that it felt right. I knew that I was going to do a career and a job that fills me with purpose, and I was chasing that. That was like what I started focusing on. So going back to the relationship and outside pressure, fortunately, I had no pressure. Like my environment, they were on my side. So they were like, whatever you decide, we are here to listen. If you need our opinion, we can give you our opinion. But they wouldn't give me their opinion without me asking for it. So they would not force it on me. And yeah, but at the same time, it's very funny because I also felt alone sometimes, because I felt like, someone please tell me what to do. There were days where I was just like, should I really quit my job? Should I really do this? Should I really do that? And I was like, someone please tell me. Like, I don't. And that's when you realize that you are you are in control of your life, but it also means that you are responsible for your life. So you don't just get to make the decisions, you also get to take responsibility for it. And I think this like radical responsibility, this is what I learned again through fitness as well. Because if you don't do things, in the gym, if you don't eat right, then like you are not going to see results. And that's applicable in life as well. Like you have to take responsibility for your decisions. And so I felt alone in a way, because sometimes I was just like, can someone else please do this for me? But no one came because it was my life. So it is liberating on one hand, because it's like no one can tell you what to do. It's like, you can be like, sometimes I'm just like, don't tell me what to do, like, but then you have to like make a decision, right? Of like, and then if the decision is wrong, then you have to still take the responsibility. And you can't just blame like someone else who took the decision for you, because you said it's my decision. So it is one of those things, where you're like, yeah, you're in control, but you also have to take the responsibility. So yeah, life.
Life is one of those mysteries. They tell us, get married before 30, have your child, have 2.5 children, white picket fence, get the dog.
Yeah.
And then you work until you die. Well, not till you die, until you retire. And then by the graces of God, you've raised your children so well that they can take care of you. But if one thing is out of sequence, you feel you kind of failed, right? If you don't have the kids, but you're married, you feel like, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. Or if you have the children, you don't get married, you feel the same thing. Or if you don't get married and have no children, it's like, oh my God, I failed twice?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, but again, like I would go back to like, who is telling you this? Who is telling us this? Like that this is how we should live? No, we can create our own rules, like within, like you can't, like, there are like basic principles of like not harming other people whilst you're making your own way, like I'm always about kindness, showing up, like, be open, be kind in your heart, always, assume the best of people. Obviously it's hard sometimes if you have like personal experiences that tell you otherwise, but otherwise, like, if you show up with kindness, you can create your own life and how you want to live. And if you call a family just your partner, or your family can be just a dog, that this is my dog and this is my family, like you can, like, it's anything is possible. Anything. It's just, you just have to get rid of all of these pressures that society puts on you, who is like, just always go back to the question. That would be, my advice, or that's how I live, is like, who's telling me this, that I should be doing this? When I'm like, whatever decision I want to make, and I'm like, oh, I want to do this, but I feel like I should be doing that. And then I always ask, like, why do you think that you should be doing that? Who's telling you that? Like, where is that coming from? And then from that, you can start working back of like, oh, I have an issue from my childhood when, my grandma told me this, and this is why when I'm 30, I want to make that decision instead of this. And it's like, is that relevant? And like, no. So yeah. It's tricky.
Patricia, this is your grandmother speaking. If you don't find a nice young man by the time you're 20, you are going to be old, alone, and with 1,000 cats. Right? I totally get it. I grew up without my mother and my father. I was raised by my grandmother. And she used to tell me these stories, and it made sense at the time. And I truly believe in my heart that we are better together than we're apart, meaning that I think companionship is a beautiful thing. I think that if you're not going to get married, you want to find someone that you can at least round the bases with, as they say, right? Let's say if I want to go watch a movie, hey, Patricia, want to go watch a movie? If I want to go to dinner, same thing. And I think there's variations of that, but at the end of the day, we still want to be with someone. But you're absolutely right. I remember a time where it's like, you need to get this done right then and there. And with women, it's a little bit different, because if you're going to have children, you have what I don't have, which is a biological clock. You have to have the child by a certain age, right? Or else you can't have them anymore. But you're paving your own way. And one thing I want to touch on, what you said, which I found excellent, was that you're making decisions that you want to make in the way that you want to do it. Because I honestly believe the best decisions, or the most important decisions we'll ever make, are when we're alone. When we're sitting and we're just like, okay, I'm going to quit my job. I don't know if this is going to work out for me. I want to sell everything and just have 2 suitcases. Terrain, I want to go to Portugal. You're coming? Well, I don't know, Patricia. No, we're going. Right? Like, you have to figure it out. Like, how did you get to that state of mind where it's like, F everything else, I'm going to do me with my neck twist, with my neck and everything and my finger waving? How did you get to that point, Patricia?
Oh, yeah. So it is spending time with yourself. That is definitely a huge part. And I think a lot of people nowadays, it's like there's so much noise. There's always something to do. There's always somewhere to be. There's always something to listen to. Like, even like, always like podcasts, music, always like there is something. And I'm like, silence. Like, sometimes like just like be silent and deal with your own thoughts. It's freaking hard. Like, I'm telling you, like, just like really just like sitting and just like, I'm not doing anything. And you feel this like thing of like, okay, where's my phone? Like, I'm like, no. So I think like being with yourself, it's very, very important. And that's where all the thoughts come. And you have to find, a way for yourself where these thoughts come like really well. I think like the shower is a perfect place for this. Just like whilst you're showering, you have the best thoughts. I'm telling you, like the best thoughts, like for my business, for everything, like they come from the shower or the gym, where it's just me, myself, and I, and the iron, just like the weights, and just like, okay, this is me. And I have the best revelations like after the heaviest sets, when I'm just like crawling on the floor, like I can't do it anymore, and I'm like, huh. So I think like finding a place where you can be on your own and really like without distractions in a way. I think that was a huge process. So I go on like long walks every day. I do like 10,000 steps at the moment. But there was a time where I would do like 12,000 steps a day, and with podcasts and with like the right like self-development podcast, which would start thoughts, or when I had a thought about like, okay, I might want to be location independent. And then I would go on Spotify and be like, okay, location independent, like, podcasts or whatever. And I would start listening to thoughts. And, I was just like start reflecting, and it is a process. So you can't just do this like from one day to another. As I told you, it took me like 2.5, like 3 years altogether from like the start of this, like, let's say self-development journey to the point where I'm like, I think I'm doing this. And Yeah, so I think it was a long process and really spending a lot of time with myself and reflecting. And yeah, for me, it was that. I know that a lot of people journal as well. So actually, like, to talk to yourself, it's always easier when you have other people to talk to. But I didn't have too many. I had like maybe like one or two people who I could actually talk about like these things to. But it's hard because in the beginning, you're just like, you don't even want to like say it out loud, like when I first had the thought of like, you know what, I'm gonna like move to Portugal or whatever, like I'm gonna resign from my 9 to 5, which is like, but what do I do if I don't have a stable income? Like, what can, like, like, and all of, and I'm just like, if I say this out loud to anyone, I would be like, no, this is too scary, this is too scary. So for a long time it was just brewing in my head. It wasn't even like a thing. And when I first said it out loud to a friend of mine, that's when I was like, whoa, I think it might be like really materializing, in me. So I think like that's the first step, like saying something out loud. Even when you have a big goal of like, when I wanted to step on stage in bodybuilding first, I was like, for like months, it was just in my head, but I was like, me in a bikini on a stage with like lights and like, with all the like fake tan, me like, no, no, but it was in my mind. And like after like months and months and months, when I first told one of my friends that I might want to do this, I was just like, please don't laugh at me. Please don't laugh, because I know like it's but I might want to do this. And then when that friend says, wow, okay, wow, this like really cool. And then you're like, okay, I might be doing this. And then, so it's a process. So I think just be patient, because I think a lot of people want to solve these issues like straight away. Like, okay, so tomorrow I'm going to do this. But it's kind of like trusting this process and patience, but at the same time also moving, right? So you can't just like not do anything. So it's tricky to navigate, but it's time.
For those who are following along on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, please subscribe for more incredible interviews with the lovely Patricia, and we